Black Myth Wukong is almost here, and it's really fun to play. I love the faster paced focus of this hardcore action RPG, and the world and enemies are gorgeously designed. And yes, the game is playable on the Steam Deck, but it does have a couple of quirks. So in this video, we're going to go over the performance of how it plays on the Steam Deck and our recommended settings to enjoy it to the fullest. A key for Black Myth Wukong was provided to us by Game Science pre-release so we could review this game. Thank you guys. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit that notification bell to be notified as soon as a new video goes live. The game is also recorded on the Steam Deck directly, so there might be a little bit higher battery drain in our recordings, and there might be some performance drops where if you are playing the game, there won't be. Black Myth Wukong is playable on the Steam Deck, and that in itself is pretty incredible. This is a brand new game with high spec requirements, so being able to play it on the go is pretty amazing in itself. Unfortunately, it isn't the optimal way to play, and you will need to make some compromises to both visuals and frame rate in order to keep the game as stable as possible and get around any issues. Without any changes, the game will run into some RAM usage problems. It eats up way too much, and that will cause some crashes. The Steam Deck only has 16 gigabytes of RAM, and the more you play the game, the more RAM it's going to use, with some spikes that you might see in cutscenes. To fix this, we need to make two different changes. First, we need to set the UMA buffer to 4 gigabytes. To do this, first power off your Steam Deck completely. Then turn the deck back on while holding the volume up button, which will bring you into the BIOS menu. Go to Setup Utility and then to the Advanced tab. From there, you can change the UMA buffer size to 4 gigabytes. You can now press the Select button to save and exit the BIOS menu. Next, we need Cryo Utilities. Head to Cryo Utilities GitHub and to the latest release, link to this in the description. For whatever reason, the regular installer wasn't running for me, so download the source code zip file and move the folder inside onto your desktop. Open the folder and run the install cryoutilities.desktop application. Once done, the cryoutilities icon will appear on your desktop. Open it up and type in your sudo password, which, if you haven't yet, you can set by opening a console and typing in password. And then all you have to do is click recommended button, let it go through its process, and you're all set. Now we can move on to how the game actually performs on the Steam Deck. First thing I want to say is something about the benchmark tool. The benchmark tool does note that it could run the game at 40 FPS when you're running that tool on the Steam Deck, but this isn't completely accurate. There are areas that can hit 40 FPS and even some that can hit 50, but there are too many areas that get to the mid-30s or below to the mid-20s that it really is not a great idea. On top of that, to hit a stable 40 FPS and make it feel as smooth as possible, you're going to need to set a frame rate limiter with SteamOS, which can introduce input lag, and trust me, for a game like this, you don't want that kind of lag. To fix this and keep the game as stable as possible, we're going to be setting a 30 FPS limit, which we're going to do using in-game settings. To do this, you'll have to set the frame rate limit in your display settings to 30 FPS, and in the quick access menu, make sure to disable the frame rate limiter. As for the in-game settings, we are going to keep it at a low preset, set FSR to 50, and change the resolution to 1152 by 720. I have tried forcing the resolution down even further to around 800 to 500, but it did get too blurry and didn't have that many performance improvements overall. This not only gets rid of the input lag, which is very essential for this type of game, but it does keep the game stable in a lot of areas where we're going to need it. The game does have some blurry moments, but everything can still be made out and looks so much better on the smaller screen than what you're seeing in this video. Black Myth is a very heavy game, and it needs as much power as possible. So you're not going to have any TDP limit, so expect your battery life to be pretty minimal, around 1.5 to 2 hours on the Steam Deck LCD, and around 2.5 to 3 hours on the Steam Deck OLED. Larger outdoor areas tend to drain around 21 watts, and there are some indoor smaller areas that will go back down to 14, though bosses will tend to hit around 21 to 22 watts, as most of them are pretty heavy fights. The game does not support 16 by 10 resolution, so you are going to have black bars on the top and bottom of your screen, but there are cloud saves and it does have controller support. but from what I could see, there were no HDR settings. Even though it isn't perfect, and it does have those compromises that you're going to make, it's still pretty incredible to be able to play Black Myth on the go. I genuinely enjoyed playing this on the Steam Deck, and I didn't expect it to be as playable as it was. Seeing how detailed the visuals are and how great the game looks and doesn't get blurry in the moments that really matter, like in the middle of big fights, I really enjoyed my experience with it. Cutscenes will cause those drops, and they will cause RAM spikes, which is why it's essential to change the UMA buffer and to use cryo utilities. But outside of that, when you're fighting, there's almost never any drops below 30. You may encounter some stuttering here and there, which is usually caused by the RAM usage, but if it ever does happen, which it can happen during boss battles, usually happens right after a cutscene or during a cutscene, and it'll relieve itself almost immediately when the fight is going on. While I wouldn't say you should play this on deck over a more powerful desktop PC, if you don't have anything else to play it on, I would still consider this a playable and enjoyable experience, as long as you are very well aware of the compromises you're going to need to make sure the game can be played on the Steam Deck without any crashes and as stable as humanly possible. Either way, I do recommend Black Myth Wukong just based on content. It is a really fun game, and I enjoyed myself way more than I expected to. And a big thank you to Game Science for sending over a key for us to review. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit that notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. You can also check out the written form of this review, which goes way more into the content side of it, over on our website. And a big thank you to all our Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. See you next time.